But let's move to what's going to happen in the future, President Trump. What are we doing and what's the Republican Party doing to make sure we don't get an election stolen in 22 and 24?
Well, it's going to be harder, but they're not tough enough yet. And we're going to see, and a lot of things are coming out, and I think a lot of very positive things are coming out. Unfortunately, I'm the one that has to bring them out. It should be a lot of others. But we have some great warriors, Jim Jordan, the whole group, Jim Banks. We have some very good people that, fight very, very hard. Unfortunately, a bad decision was made. This committee was a bad decision not to have representation on that committee. That was a very, very foolish decision.
Right.
Because, they try and pretend like they're legit. And only when you get into the inner workings, you say, what kind of a thing is this? It's just a one-sided witch hunt.
Right.
But I think the bigger you win by, I think I won by a lot last time. I was told if I got 63 million votes, I'd win.
There's Donald Trump on Wayne Allen Root's show talking again about the January 6th hearings. I don't think that's what he was asking him about, though. It's almost like it's constantly on his mind because they're exposing him for what he did that day. Either way it goes, but Kevin McCarthy also came up in those conversations talking about that committee and what was put on it. And how it was foolish for him not to get Republicans on there. Crazy because Kevin McCarthy did what he did in support of Donald Trump, but that always comes back to bite him in the ass. Let's keep it real. So don't forget, Democrats did offer Republicans seats on the committee. They were outside of Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger. There was actually 5 positions that was put out there. Jim Jordan and Jim Banks were the 2 that were rejected by Nancy Pelosi because the 2 of them were potentially compromised or part of the problem in the first place. So for them to be on that committee, we know what it would look like. But because of that decision, Kevin McCarthy made the decision that now is getting trouble from Donald Trump. Remember this?
Pelosi has created a sham process. Unless Speaker Pelosi reverses course and seats all 5 Republicans, we will not participate. But we think it's too important that those 2 questions, why were we ill prepared? Why did they know on December 14th? Why would they jeopardize the lives of the Capitol Police? We will run our own investigation.
That was all bluster and pushback to make sure that they would discredit the committee that was getting put together. Still waiting for their other panel that they're going to go to investigate what happened on January 6th. I get the feeling they're not going to do that. But back to Donald Trump, because he wasn't done with Kevin McCarthy. He's mad about him not putting people on the committee for his sake. And also, when asked about whether or not McCarthy will potentially be Speaker of the House if Republicans do win in the fall, Donald Trump wasn't too heavy on that either. Let's watch.
Last question for you. I was the guy who first brought up the idea of you running for Speaker of the House if we win in November. You like the idea, but you never acted on it. And you've now endorsed McCarthy for Speaker of the House. Why don't you consider running?
No, I haven't.
You haven't?
No, I endorsed him in his race, but I haven't endorsed anybody for Speaker.
Okay.
I don't believe it. So they say that, so remember this. So they said, Mike Pence can't do anything. Then right after this whole event, they started working so that they could make what they said true. Because the truth is, he could have sent it back to the state legislatures. But Thomas Jefferson had the same exact problem in the early 1800s with Georgia, which was unable to properly count its votes. Hear ye, the great state of Georgia is unable to properly count our votes. Thomas Jefferson said, oh, we're going to take your votes. We're not sending them back, we're taking them. And he took the votes and they got elected. He and his wonderful president. So I said to Mike, if you do this, you can be Thomas Jefferson. And then after it all went down, I looked at him one day and I said, Mike, hate to say this, but you know Thomas Jefferson.
Donald Trump was the keynote speaker at the Faith and Freedom Conference in Nashville, Tennessee. And Surprisingly, I guess, I'm not sure how I could possibly still be surprised here. After that Thursday's hearings where they detailed exactly how he called out and targeted his people to go and try to murder Mike Pence for not doing exactly what he then reiterated just there that he said he did tell him to do, which was illegal and wrong and impossible for him to do. He retold the story again as if this was something that Mike Pence should have and could have done, and that also Donald Trump had nothing to do with this entire situation that we saw go down. That's the first part about this whole thing. He went through a multitude of other things that made no sense and that didn't connect to each other. But the one thing I want to point out as we just assess this first part is that was off of a teleprompter. That wasn't off the cuff. I mean, maybe because the teleprompter's off the side and he's kind of looking this way. I was like, he's kind of reading it, but not completely. I'm not sure if he said, here, give me an outline and I'm gonna riff on this because I need to know where I'm going. I don't know. But maybe he wasn't, I hope he wasn't. But if that was written, I'm not sure what the plan is in trying to defend this with his 12-page letters and his truths pushing back on things. But as I said, he went through a bunch of different things. He also talked about pardoning the January 6th defendants if he retakes the presidency. Something else he probably should shut up about. Watch.
January 6th defendants are having their lives totally destroyed and being treated worse than terrorists and murderers, despite most being charged with parading through the Capitol. Most people should not be treated the way they're being treated. And if I become president someday, if I decide to do it, I will be looking at them very, very seriously for pardons, very, very seriously. They've been treated very unfairly.
So twofold there to try and act like and keep people like Ron DeSantis at bay, saying if I could possibly run for president, so don't say anything, you guys, don't announce it all. That's the one point about that. The second point is then continue to keep his idiotic MAGA minions hanging on to every word going, he's gonna pardon us, he's gonna pardon us. They haven't learned yet. He said that 4 other times. He said that when he was running, hey, I'll pay your bills. He said that back in 2015 and he's still saying it and they're still listening to it. That's his approach. He knows he's got suckers.
Yeah, so there's 2 parts of the story. One is, wow, after watching those hearings, we know he's watching the hearings because he's doing angry tweets about it. I'm not gonna call them truths, okay? Those are stupid Truth Social platform. Okay, and so he watches that where they're chanting, hang Mike Pence, and they're beating the crap out of cops, etc. He sees all that and he says, you're just parading around. I can't wait to pardon them. He just says it, he doesn't care. He's like, oh, they were gonna kill my vice president. And instead of coming out and going, well, look, I didn't intend for them to murder my own vice president, that's ridiculous. Of course they shouldn't have done that, but hey, blah, blah. No, he's like, Mike Pence, I'm very disappointed in him. I mean, I don't know what should happen to Mike Pence, but I just saw you guys chanting about hanging him. And I'm telling you, I'm still very disappointed in him. He's just a total utter monster. But look, he represents the Republican Party. He's at a faith and freedom conference. This is what they think Christianity is about. They're like, oh, he's looking to physically harm his vice president again. Yes, that's what Jesus would want. Maybe you guys should crucify him. I mean, they're not Christians. They're not moral. They're the most immoral people in the world. Now to the lies. So he says, so they say, they do these hearings and they say, now all of a sudden they say, Pence could have sent it back. No, they said if Pence sent it back, it would be to fake electors and that would have been an insurrection and a coup against democracy. They didn't say he could do it and it would be legal. They said if he did it, it would have been illegal. And Trump's like, so you're saying he could have done it? Literally, you just saw it with your own eyes. That's amazing. Then the Thomas Jefferson thing. Now I knew it's a lie. Why? Because it came out of Donald Trump's mouth, right? But I bothered to fact check it, okay? I don't bother if it's like Hugo Chavez's ghost stole the election. Well, how am I gonna fact check whether Hugo Chavez actually has a ghost and he actually made a deal, the ghost made a deal with Dominion? How am I gonna fact check, has the Kraken actually been released? Has there been massive dumps? I don't, these are, so like the first couple of times they mentioned some lunatic conspiracy theory, I let it go. If they do it enough times, God damn it, all right. So I looked up Thomas Jefferson. You're gonna be shocked to find out It's the exact opposite of what Trump is claiming. So Thomas Jefferson had an issue with Georgia when he was the vice president, and he's counting votes not to be vice president, but to be president. Every part of the story he said is wrong. And Georgia's ballots were put in a format that was different than the other states. But the part he didn't tell you is no one objected to it. The senators from Georgia were on the other side. They had voted for Adams, and they said it's totally fine. Everybody from Georgia, it was super clear that Georgia had voted for Jefferson. They just put it in a different place. No one at all objected, even though back then things were vicious. I mean, they hated each other, right? No one disputed that Jefferson had won. He just made that up. He made it up completely. But it turns out, as with everything with Trump, there's an extra layer of a lie. It turns out Vermont had made the similar mistake, but worse, in the election before, and Jefferson was also presiding as the vice president over that one. And that election they lost. They lost to Adams, right? And Vermont could have swung the election to Jefferson. And he's like, oh no, that's a procedural formatting mistake. No, Adams won. So Jefferson didn't do at all what he wanted Pence to do. Jefferson did the opposite. He's like, no, I don't care where it was on the ballot and whatever BS excuse you have. I didn't win. Adams, and he hated Adams. He hated him. And he's like, yeah, but he won. So that story is 200% false.